wants, but figuring out how to actually get there, that's the tricky part.
Exactly. And so for this deep dive, we've got a collection of tips and advice and strategies, but we're not just going to skim the surface.
Yeah, no quick fixes here.
We're going beyond the usual cliches, right? Like communication is key. Like, okay, yeah, we know that, but how do we actually do it? What kind of love do you truly want to create? And then how can these tips from all these sources actually help you get there?
I think that's such a great place to start because so often I see people kind of get caught up in what they think a relationship should look like,
Yeah.
instead of actually taking the time to figure out like what they truly desire.
Totally. So we're not handing out generic advice, right? We're getting deep and personal here. I really appreciate that the source material really dives into the why behind the tips, which I think is so helpful. It's not just do this, but it's here's why this works and how it can transform your relationship. For example, I was so surprised to learn how much emphasis was placed on keeping things playful
Yeah.
in a relationship.
Playfulness. It's so important.
Yeah, it's not something you normally hear about.
Right. And, we tend to think of like deep, meaningful conversations as the cornerstone of a strong bond, which of course they are, but playfulness is just as crucial. It creates a sense of joy, a sense of lightness, which I think can be so important when you're navigating those inevitable, challenges of life together.
Totally, yeah. When you can laugh together even during those tough times, it strengthens your connection, right?
Exactly.
So how do we bring more of that lighthearted energy into our relationships? Like, what are some practical things we can do?
Well, it starts with being intentional, I think, about making time for fun and shared experiences that bring you both delight. Think about those activities that make you both light up, whether it's trying a new hobby together, going on an adventure, or simply just like having a silly dance party in your living room.
Oh, I love that. Those are great suggestions. Yeah. And it actually ties into another key theme from the source material, which is, as I mentioned, communication. It seems pretty obvious, but I feel like the sources really go deeper than just saying talk to each other.
Yeah, talk to each other, right. We've all heard that one before.
Right.
Yeah, it's not just about the quantity of communication, but the quality. Are you truly being transparent with your partner, sharing those inner thoughts and feelings, even when it's uncomfortable? And are you actively listening? And I mean really actively listening, not just waiting for your turn to talk, but truly absorbing what your partner is saying, both verbally and non-verbally.
Active listening. See, now that's a skill that I think I'm definitely still working on, right?
Oh, me too.
I catch myself like planning my response sometimes instead of truly hearing what my partner's saying. And I can see how that could lead to so many misunderstandings.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it happens to the best of us. I think it would be helpful to think about a time when maybe you assumed that your partner knew what you were thinking or feeling without actually communicating it. How did that play out?
Too many times to count. And it never ends well. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
So what's one small but impactful change we can make today to improve our communication?
Well, start by being more mindful of how you listen. When your partner is speaking, put down your phone, make eye contact, focus on their words, resist that urge to interrupt or offer solutions unless they specifically ask for them. Sometimes just feeling heard is enough to diffuse a tense situation or even strengthen a connection.
That's so true. Such a simple but powerful shift. Yeah. And speaking of connection, the source material also talks about the importance of quality time together. Like, it's not just about being in the same room, right? It's about actually being present and engaged with each other.
Yeah.
But what does that actually look like practically?
It's about creating experiences where you're truly connecting on a deeper level. And to be even more specific, we can actually define what deeper level actually means. It's about moving beyond those surface level conversations and engaging in activities that foster intimacy, vulnerability, and shared joy.
So instead of just zoning out in front of the TV together, we need to be more intentional about the time we spend together. What are some examples of activities that encourage that deeper connection? Like, what stood out to you from the source material?
Well, the source had some really interesting suggestions, things that go beyond the typical dinner and a movie routine. One that really stood out to me was taking a cooking class together.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, it's interactive, you're learning a new skill, you're kind of working as a team. Or how about going stargazing? It's a chance to slow down, marvel at the universe, and have those deep philosophical conversations that sometimes get lost in the hustle and bustle of daily life.
I love that idea. And it brings up a good point. Like, What activities truly allow you and your partner to connect on that deeper level? It's going to be different for every couple, but the key is to find what brings you both joy and creates a sense of shared experience.
Exactly. It's about being curious and exploring, different avenues for connection. And sometimes, it's the simplest things that can have the biggest impact.
That's so true. The source also emphasizes the importance of small gestures and surprises, those little things that show your partner you're thinking of them. It's about expressing appreciation and affection, not just on special occasions, but consistently.
Yeah, consistency is key. And there's actually a fascinating scientific reason why these small acts of love are so powerful. Did you know that even just a quick hug or a loving text message can actually trigger the release of oxytocin in the brain?
Well, I've heard of oxytocin, but explain it to me like I'm 5. Like, what does that actually do?
Okay, so imagine oxytocin as the cuddle hormone, the love glue. It's a powerful neurochemical that plays a key role in bonding, trust, and social connection. So when we engage in acts of affection, whether it's physical touch or words of affirmation or acts of service, our brains release oxytocin, and this actually strengthens those feelings of connection and intimacy.
So those little things aren't just cute, they're actually like rewiring our brains for love.
They really are. Yeah.
That's amazing. That's so cool. So it makes me wonder, is there a way to be more strategic about using these small gestures to strengthen our relationships?
Absolutely. And like I said, it all comes down to consistency. It's not about grand gestures once in a blue moon, but it's about weaving these small acts of love into the fabric of your daily life.
That makes sense. So challenge yourself, listeners. What's one small, unexpected gesture you can do for your partner today to show them that you care? It doesn't have to be anything big or expensive. It's the thought and the consistency that really matter.
Now, we all know that relationships aren't always smooth sailing, right?
Oh, no.
There will be rough waters to navigate, challenges, disagreements, moments where you might feel a little disconnected from your partner.
Yeah, absolutely. Even the strongest relationships are going to face difficulties, and when those tough times hit, it's easy to feel really overwhelmed or lost. So what guidance does the source offer for navigating those challenging moments? What can we do?
Well, it emphasizes the importance of being supportive during those times while also maintaining healthy boundaries.
Oh, okay. Boundaries.
Yeah, and this is where things can get a bit tricky because finding that balance can be challenging.
I can see how it would be. So what exactly does a healthy boundary look like in a relationship? Can you give some examples? Because I think a lot of people, myself included, struggle with knowing where that line is.
Sure, it's about being there for your partner while also taking care of your own needs and well-being. For instance, if your partner's going through a tough time, it's natural to want to be their rock, to be there for them emotionally. But that doesn't mean you have to carry their burden entirely on your own shoulders.
So there's a difference between being supportive and taking on their problems as your own.
Exactly. And it's crucial to recognize that difference. It's about finding ways to support your partner without sacrificing your own mental and emotional health.
Okay, that makes sense. So how do we find that balance? Like, practically, what can we do?
Well, it starts with open and honest communication, expressing your own needs and boundaries clearly and respectfully. It's also about recognizing when it's appropriate to offer support and when it's better to encourage your partner to seek help from other resources, like a therapist or a trusted friend.
Yeah. And I imagine that ties into the source's advice on conflict resolution, which, let's be honest, is an inevitable part of any relationship.
Right. Absolutely. Disagreements are bound to happen. And it's how we handle those disagreements that can either strengthen or weaken the relationship. And what's so fascinating here is that the source goes beyond the usual, don't go to bed, angry advice.
Right.
And really dives into the deeper dynamics of conflict.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What makes this approach to conflict resolution different?
It's about understanding the underlying needs and motivations behind each other's perspectives during disagreements. Instead of seeing it as a battle to be won, it encourages us to approach conflict as an opportunity for growth and deeper understanding.
So it's about shifting our perspective from, I need to win this argument, to, I want to understand where my partner is coming from?
Precisely. It's about moving from a place of defensiveness and blame to a place of curiosity and empathy.
That is a huge shift. And I'm guessing it takes a lot of conscious effort to make that happen, especially in the heat of the moment when emotions are running high. Does the source offer any practical tips for putting this into practice? Like, how do we actually do that?
One technique that they highlight is using I statements instead of you statements during arguments.
Oh, I statements, yeah. I've heard of those before.
Yeah.
But I've never really understood how to use them effectively. Can you give an example?
Sure. Let's say you're feeling unheard in a conversation. Instead of saying, "You never listen to me," which can come across as accusatory and just shut down the conversation.
Right.
Try saying, "I feel unheard when I don't feel like my perspective is being considered." It shifts the focus from blame to expressing your own feelings and needs.
Oh, that's so helpful. It takes the sting out of the conversation and makes it more about finding a solution together.
Yeah.
I can definitely see how that could help de-escalate a conflict and make it more productive.
Exactly. It's about turning conflict into a conversation rather than a competition. And it also helps to remember that, conflict doesn't necessarily mean something is wrong with the relationship.
Right.
It's natural for two people to have different perspectives and opinions, right? It's how we navigate those differences that really matters.
Right. That's reassuring.
Yeah.
So instead of fearing conflict, we can see it as an opportunity to learn more about ourselves and our partners.
Exactly.
Now, this source also talks about the importance of trust and respect in a relationship.
Yeah.
Those feel like pretty foundational elements.
Absolutely. Trust and respect, they're the cornerstones of a healthy and lasting bond. Trust is built, through consistent actions that demonstrate reliability and dependability. It's about showing your partner that they can count on you both emotionally and practically.
And respect goes beyond just being polite to each other.
Right.
It's about truly valuing your partner for who they are, even when they have different opinions or ways of doing things.
Exactly. It's about honoring their individuality and appreciating those differences rather than trying to mold them into someone they're not.
Right.
And, this connects back to the idea of creating the kind of love you truly want.
Yeah.
If you want a relationship where both partners feel seen, heard, and respected for who they are, then cultivating trust and respect is essential.
That makes so much sense. It's about celebrating each other's uniqueness and allowing space for both individuals to thrive within the relationship.
Yes.
That's beautiful. Now, let's shift gears a bit and talk about a topic that often gets, I think, glossed over in relationship advice, which is physical intimacy.
Yeah, it's an important aspect of a romantic relationship.
For sure.
And the source emphasizes the importance of being attuned to each other's needs and desires in this area. It's about fostering a sense of closeness and connection, not just physically, but also emotionally and mentally.
It's about keeping the spark alive.
Yes.
But, with the demands of work and family and just life in general, it's so easy to let that spark fade.
It really is. That's why it's so important to be intentional about nurturing intimacy in your relationship. And it doesn't have to be complicated. Sometimes it's the small gestures, a lingering hug, a thoughtful compliment, or a shared moment of eye contact that can rekindle that sense of connection.
It's about making an effort to connect on all levels.
Yeah.
And to explore new ways to keep things fresh and exciting. Now, all this talk about building a stronger relationship might make it seem like it's all about focusing on your partner.
Yeah.
But this source also talks about the importance of self-care.
Absolutely. You can't pour from an empty cup.
Oh, I love that.
Right. A healthy relationship starts with two healthy individuals. Taking care of your own physical, emotional, and mental well-being is crucial, not only for yourself, but also for the well-being of the relationship.
This is where I struggle.
Yeah.
I know self-care is important, but I often feel guilty prioritizing my own needs when my partner is also going through something or when we have a lot going on as a couple.
Sure.
So how do we balance those seemingly competing needs?
It's a common struggle. We're often conditioned to believe that putting ourselves first is selfish.
Right.
But the truth is, it's essential for a healthy and sustainable relationship. Think of it this way. When you take care of yourself, you're better equipped to show up for your partner in a more present and supportive way.
It seems counterintuitive, but it makes sense when you put it that way.
Right.
It's like when you're on an airplane and they tell you to put on your own oxygen mask before assisting others.
Exactly.
You can't help anyone if you're gasping for air yourself.
That's a perfect analogy. It's not about neglecting your partner's needs. It's about recognizing that you need to be at your best in order to effectively meet those needs.
So how do we figure out what self-care looks like for us? It's such a buzzword these days. But I think a lot of people, myself included, struggle with actually putting it into practice.
It starts with identifying what truly nourishes and replenishes you. It could be anything from spending time in nature, engaging in a creative hobby, getting a massage, or simply taking a few minutes each day to meditate or journal. The key is to find activities that help you feel grounded, centered, and energized.
I love those suggestions. And it's a good reminder that self-care doesn't have to be this grand, expensive endeavor.
No.
It's about incorporating small but meaningful acts of self-love into our daily routines.
Yeah.
And this actually ties into one of my favorite takeaways from this source, the importance of staying playful and having fun together.
Yes. Laughter and joy are essential ingredients in a thriving relationship.
Totally.
When we make time for shared experiences that bring us delight, it strengthens our bond and helps us navigate the inevitable challenges of life together.
It's about keeping that sense of lightness and adventure alive, even amidst the day-to-day stresses of work, family, and responsibilities.
Exactly.
What are some ways we can bring more playfulness into our relationships?
It could be as simple as trying a new hobby together, going on a spontaneous road trip, or even just having a silly dance party in your living room.
I love it.
The key is to find activities that make you both laugh and create a sense of shared joy and connection.
Those are great ideas. And it really emphasizes the point that building a strong relationship isn't just about working through problems or having serious conversations.
No.
It's also about celebrating the good times and creating memories that will bring a smile to your face years down the road.
Exactly. And it ties back to that initial question we posed. What kind of love do you truly want to create? If you want a relationship that's filled with joy, laughter, and a sense of shared adventure, then making time for playfulness is essential.
This has been such an eye-opening conversation. I feel like we've covered so much ground, from communication and conflict resolution to trust, intimacy, and the importance of self-care.
And it's all interconnected.
Yeah.
Each of these elements plays a vital role in creating a strong, healthy, and fulfilling relationship.
Absolutely. But before we wrap up this deep dive, I want to touch on one more crucial aspect of building a thriving love life, which is setting clear expectations.
Yeah.
This is something the source material emphasizes as a key to avoiding misunderstandings and resentments down the line.
You're absolutely right. Unmet expectations are often at the root of relationship conflicts.
Yes.
And it's not just about stating your expectations clearly, it's also about actively listening to and understanding your partner's expectations as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's a two-way street, and it requires open and honest communication.
I think this is where a lot of couples stumble. We often assume our partners know what we want or need without explicitly communicating it.
Yes.
And when those unspoken expectations aren't met, we feel hurt, disappointed, or even resentful.
Exactly. And that's why it's so crucial to be upfront and honest with each other about what we need and expect from the relationship, even if those conversations feel a bit uncomfortable at times.
Yeah.
It's much better to address those differences head on than to let them fester and create resentment down the line.
So it's about having those courageous conversations, even when they feel a bit daunting. But how do we approach those conversations in a way that feels constructive and supportive rather than accusatory or demanding?
It starts with creating a safe space for open and honest dialogue.
Okay.
Choose a time when both of you are feeling calm, relaxed, and receptive.
Right.
And remember, the goal is not to win or prove a point, but to understand each other's perspectives and find a compromise that works for both of you.
That's a great point. It's about approaching the conversation as a team, working together to create a shared vision for the relationship.
And remember, expectations can change over time, so it's important to revisit them periodically and make adjustments as needed.
Oh, that's a good point.
What worked for you 5 years ago might not be working for you today, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Relationships are constantly evolving, and our expectations need to evolve along with them.
That's a great reminder. It's about being flexible and adaptable, rather than clinging rigidly to outdated expectations. Now, speaking of respecting each other's needs and allowing space for growth, the source also touches on the importance of respecting each other's space.
Yes.
This seems to contradict the idea of spending quality time together, which we talked about earlier.
It might seem counterintuitive, but it's about finding a healthy balance between togetherness and independence.
Okay.
Even in the most loving relationships, individuals still need time and space for themselves.
So it's not a sign of a problem if you or your partner need some alone time every now and then.
Not at all. In fact, it can actually strengthen the relationship by allowing each person to recharge and come back to the partnership feeling refreshed and more connected.
That makes a lot of sense. It's about respecting each other's individuality
Yeah.
and trusting that your partner will come back to you feeling even more loving and appreciative of the bond you share.
Right?
But how do we figure out how much space is healthy? Is there a magic formula?
That's a great question. And there's so much in relationships, I don't think there's a one-size-fits-all answer.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, I think you're right. There's no magic formula.
Right.
It really depends on the individuals and the dynamics of the relationship. Some people need more space than others,
Yeah,
and that's perfectly okay.
absolutely.
The key is to have open and honest conversations about your needs and preferences,
Yes,
and to find a compromise that works for both of you.
exactly.
Yeah.
And it also requires trust.
Oh, yeah.
Trust that your partner will come back to you feeling refreshed and recharged rather than feeling threatened or insecure when they need some time alone.
That makes sense. It's about trusting that the time apart will actually strengthen the bond rather than weaken it. This deep dive has really opened my eyes to the many facets of building a strong and healthy love life.
Yeah.
It's so much more than just grand romantic gestures. It's about those everyday acts of communication, respect, and understanding. And it's about finding a balance between supporting your partner and taking care of yourself.
You've hit the nail on the head. It's about being intentional and proactive and nurturing the relationship both individually and together.
Yeah.
And it's about embracing the journey with all its challenges and rewards.
It's about recognizing that a fulfilling love life is not a destination, but an ongoing process of growth and discovery.
Absolutely.
And that process is uniquely yours to create.
Yeah.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive,
Yeah.
I want to leave you with this final thought.
Okay.
What small step can you take today to make your love life a little bit brighter,
Yeah.
a little bit stronger, a little bit more fulfilling?
Whether it's initiating a heartfelt conversation with your partner, expressing your appreciation in a new and unexpected way, or simply taking a few minutes for yourself to recharge and reconnect with your own needs, remember that even the smallest gestures can have a ripple effect, creating waves of positive change in your relationship.
Beautiful. Keep learning, keep growing, and keep loving. Until next time, take care.